I'm doing a giveaway for PAX bundles. Stick around till the end of the video to find out how you can win. What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven here with your afternoon snap, and today I've got a very special treat for y'all. We're gonna take a look at the finals from this weekend's Snap Judgements League tournament with two totally unexpected decks. On the other side of my screen, we have got a Beta Ray Bill bounce deck, which is pretty cool. If you haven't seen this one yet, it is from a player by the name of Doc Guapo. They've beaten me with it a few times now. It is mostly a bounce deck, but then also has a few ways to go over the top with Werewolf by Night, Beta Ray Bill, and the Stormbringer, which you can trigger multiple times. You can trigger the Hit Monkey multiple times with Grandmaster, and then Sasquatch, my favorite card, or at least my personal community spotlight card. And on this side of the screen, we have a War Machine combo deck, basically all in on War Machine. It can do the Storm, War Machine, Legion curve out to lock your opponent out of the final turn of the game, or it can just play War Machine to allow you to play big cards like Infinite and Ebony Maw and bypass the restriction of Electro. I think the players are just about to get into it now. This is pre-recorded, and unfortunately, I do know who wins, but I don't know how these individual games play out, so this is sort of live commentary for me as well, but I am a little bit spoiled, but I think this will still be fun to take a look at here. We have got Vince, that is who we are watching from the perspective of, that's their name on Discord. The other player goes by Snapbot on Discord, and I'd potentially be looking to snap if I was Vince here. Sinister London, when your deck has a card that doubles, is pretty good because you could throw Beta Ray Bill in there, get multiple copies of it, multiple copies of Stormbringer. You already have the King Eitri, which literally just exists in the deck to draw the Stormbringer. We also have Nico on the +2 cards mode. Now, I don't know if you want to sacrifice your Merlin to draw 2 cards for Nico, but a smaller deck is going to give you more opportunities to draw those Stormbringers. So both of those things seem pretty good here for Vince, but we actually see a snap from Snapbot. So that is interesting. There is a little bit of tension here this turn. If you want to keep the Merlin, which you probably do, you can't play Nico second because you're going to play Beta Ray Bill next turn. So that is making this a little bit awkward, and Storm is actually coming out for Sinister London. That makes a lot of sense. This was a Storm with priority there for Snapbot. So that's going to take away the potential of a double Beta Ray Bill and a double Stormbreaker, as Storm is going to break up that plan. And now Kiln and the center location are going to be, this is the final turn for both of these locations. And we might see a War Machine come out from Snapbot, but otherwise it's just going to probably be one player battling, like wherever Vince puts the Beta Ray Bill this turn, they're probably going to be able to lock that location up, and then both players will battle for Hellfire Club on the final 2 turns of the game. I imagine there are some potential plays here for Vince with Beast and stuff like that. You might also just want to get a few more points into the Kiln. I'm not sure what the ideal strategy is here, and if your opponent has the War Machine, then unfortunately I think you've already potentially lost this game. We are looking at a Nico Minoru option to potentially get multiple copies of Beta Ray Bill, because Nico is on the copy a card mode. And this is one of the synergies that this deck wants to take advantage of. And you know what? This is a tough deck to play. Vince is going to run out of time and run away from this one with a retreat because they could just not come up with a play that they felt was good enough. Now, Luna Snow there from Snapbot would have been contestable. That is not a War Machine. So Vince could have definitely won one of those locations. Would they have been able to win the Hellfire Club ultimately? That is a little bit trickier to say. Isle of Silence, I don't think that's okay. It's going to stop Electro's ongoing ability, so we won't need a War Machine. Snapbot is going to be able to bypass that regardless. We also have Grandmaster, we've got Toxin, nothing super crazy here, just going to try to snipe this domino with a Rocket Raccoon. Where's it going to go? I think your opponent is slightly incentivized to play center because you could Grandmaster a Rocket Raccoon into the center, but it's all just mind games at this point, and the domino does go into the center, so unfortunately Rocket Raccoon is not going to be getting any bonus there. Black Vortex, a pretty good location, I would think, for Vince, though. An Electro could go in there just as easily. I think we might see the Hood go into that location, or we could see Toxin get played into Isle of Silence alongside the Hood this turn, and then we're going to play the Hood into Black Vortex later on. There is a snap here from Snapbot as they drop an Electro into Isle of Silence. Yep, so they decided not to go for the Electro into Black Vortex, instead just dropping it for 6 power into the Isle. That is going to be contested. It is the Herald for Galactus right now, but Toxin is bigger, both cards receiving that +2 from Wakandan Embassy. Werewolf by Night and then the Hood potentially into Black Vortex could be the play here. We also have a Nico, but Nico unfortunately did not get the +2 bonus. That's a bit of a bummer. And if the Hood transforms into a card without an on-reveal ability, I don't believe that the Werewolf will leap over. Let's see. It's going to be a Sasquatch, and the Werewolf does not jump. That is how that interaction works out. War Machine down into the center location for Snapbot. Not growing their Herald, but they will be able to drop down a huge Infinite here. Rocket Raccoon eyeing that up in the center location. That doesn't seem great, to be honest, but because your opponent isn't super incentivized to play to the center this turn, but they're definitely not, like, if their play is Legion, this could just be a Galactus into Isle of Silence here. I think that's what we're going to see. Vince is also trying to maximize their Werewolf jumps. That's why they are considering the Rocket into that side location. But yeah, it looks like they are ultimately just going to come down to that same play. Interestingly, the Grandmaster will also not. You want to turn your King Eitri into a demon here, because Grandmaster, similar to what we just saw in Black Vortex, if that turns into a demon, it won't trigger the Werewolf by Night because it no longer has an on-reveal ability. And Werewolf by Night also will not follow the Toxin. So we're going to see Werewolf by Night land in Black Vortex this turn, and Galactus is going to basically become his own Herald here, as he will be quite large. We will pick up this Rocket Raccoon, though, so some potential still, a lot of potential power. Oh, that is the Infinite instead. Okay, all right. A lot of potential power here, though, for Vince with a 2-cost Sasquatch. They can play out mostly the rest of their hand, and then they just have to figure out where they want that Werewolf to land. 15 power into Isle of Silence is not going to do it, so I think you have to give up on Isle of Silence completely here, unfortunately, because your opponent isn't going to play there, so the Rocket Raccoon not really going to get you anything. Oh, 18 more points. Sure, yeah, that puts you to 30, and that kind of keeps the Herald at bay a little bit, which could be an important factor. And then you battle for the other 2 locations by moving your Werewolf into center. Ebony Maw plus a Galactus could put Vince in a tricky spot here, but I think they're going to lock into this play. Rocket Raccoon center, 12 points over in Black Vortex. Black Vortex actually untriggered yet from Snapbot, and they are going to completely dodge it. They don't have the Ebony Maw. It's not a completely intimidating like options here from Vince. Like they can't really even play a 2-drop and blink. I'm sorry, from Snapbot is what I meant to say. This is an open deck list format, so they both know each other's decks, and Snapbot's deck does not have a 2-cost card. All they could play there was like an Ebony Maw plus a blink or Ebony Maw plus Galactus, and either way, yeah, it looked like Vince was covered there, able to outdo the G-Man there. So now we are going to see Elysium. Who does that favor? That's an interesting one. We aren't going to see a turn 1 Domino come out, and we aren't going to see a turn 1 Ebony Maw come out either. That'll just get played for free on turn 3. We could see a Storm into Jotunheim, And yeah, it looks like Vince might regret playing those cards a little bit because they could have, yeah, the Rocket Raccoon was never going to hit anything, and the could have been saved for some Hit Monkey fuel. We are going to see Luna Snow come down into Jotunheim this turn. Those ice cubes presenting an interesting little puzzle there, and actually Vince can just pick that ice cube right up potentially. So that's kind of cool. One thing to note, if you blink your Herald, then it will no longer be your Herald. The Herald gets shuffled into the deck and it's gone. But if you Cersei your Herald, which is also something that Snapbot has access to here, then it will remain your Herald. And same thing if you, well, it would be tough to transform your Herald with Nico, I guess like Black Vortex or other weird locations or something, but yeah, this could be a Cersei down into Jotunheim, or we could see a Cersei come down into that location on a later turn. I'm curious if Snapbot's going to want to break up this Elysium at any point or do anything else. This could be like, I don't know, it's not going to be Ebony Maw Cersei. Oh, it could be Domino's Cersei. No, it's Domino's Storm to break their -1 ice cube and put a bunch of power into the flooded location, which is the Galactus location. But with the Bifrost, they might not be doing exactly what they think they're doing here, because players actually want to play into Elysium this turn in order to make sure that they have requisite points over in the flooded location. We could see Galactus come down into Elysium this turn to battle for that flooded location, and we are going to see Vince end the turn with only 5 points in that location. So that is kind of curious. The Hit Monkey is going to get out of there, and Vince might realize this at the last second and instead decide to play for Elysium. Still looks like they're eyeing up a fairly similar play. They might decide to bounce this Hit Monkey instead, though. But there's not too many options ultimately. Rocket Raccoon I don't think is going to do too much. They're just going to bounce everything out of the flooded location and battle for Elysium. Or they're going to just battle super hard for Elysium, beat the Galactus. This could be a winning play right here. Yeah, the Hood, bounce that. You could play the Rocket Raccoon. I don't think that you need to. Wow, and it's just totally dodged completely with a Galactus over in the Bifrost. That is going to lock Snapbot out of that third location. This could actually be a Legion here. Legion into the Bifrost to lock both players out of the third location could be a pretty cheeky play. No, it's going to be a blink on that Storm. That gives us a War Machine. So Snapbot is still going to be able to access that center location, but they are not going to be able to access that third location where, I mean, 13 points, that's a pretty hefty lead. Let's see if Merlin is able to find some spells to give them a way to put some more power into that location. Elysium being untouched by Legion. Now, Legion could get played into the flooded location this turn. That is something that Vince will have to contend with, but there's really nothing that they can do except for hope that that isn't what's about to happen. But if that doesn't happen here, I do think that Vince is going to be able to find a way to win the Bifrost and Elysium both, plus 23 power in the flooded location. I think at this point, Snapbot will just ignore it if they cannot win the location. We are going to be able to easily play a free Sasquatch next turn, and Once and Future is going to just shuffle away King Eitri. That's the whole idea there. That way you can drop 2 cards in that location next turn, which Sasquatch plus Malekith. 16 plus the 8 that are already there, that's 24 to exactly win the Bifrost. But is this a Legion? It's a 1-cube Legion, so I'm really not expecting this to be a Legion. I think that Snapbot would have snapped were that were the case. It is going to be the Infinite, which falls a little bit short. Galactus goes up to 20 power himself as he wins the Bifrost again. And now I think we're going to see Sasquatch Malekith over into the Bifrost and then just Sandman into Elysium. I believe that that is the most possible points, and all of those cards can get played here. Let's just double check that math. 16 plus 8 is 24. Yeah, you're going to want to put that Sasquatch and that Malekith over into the Bifrost. Sandman plus Malekith will just barely fall short. I think Vince is going to figure out the math here. The problem is this Sandman does lose Elysium. So we're currently losing to a Ebony Maw, and that's it. Do they have? No, they don't have extra energy. So Snapbot can't play like an Electro to win the center location plus Galactus into Elysium. That would be a little bit out of their price range without the Ice Cube. So they are going to be able to win the Bifrost. I think they lose Elysium, but I think they win the flooded location here because I don't think there's another way to get more power into that flooded location. This could be like a Blink plus Electro into Jubilee into Cersei. I think that's what you'd have to be going for here. Potentially with like, it's going to be tough. It is definitely going to be tough for Snapbot to come up with a play, but I think it would have to be Jubilee into Elysium and then a Blink on that. But you don't have enough energy for that. No, that would be 7 energy again. So we would need Electro into Jubilee, Electro, and then you blink the Electro into a Jubilee, and then it would have to get a Cersei and then transform the Jubilee into a different card. So a very, very specific thing would have to happen there for Snapbot with these open deck lists. It's possible to see exactly what your power output is, and that could definitely be a downside of a deck like this. The power outputs of a War Machine deck are fairly well known. I will say that some people will estimate your Blinks and your Cerseis. That's how you get like surprising points into locations. And I was coming up with Blink lines. I think they had already played a Blink in that last game, right? So I was just trying to look back and forth at the deck list to see what was possible, but some of that stuff certainly was not possible at that stage of the game. We've got the Hood coming down for Vince into Xandar, and turn 2, looks like they are planning on doing absolutely nothing here. Domino plus Chimichanga comes down for Snapbot, and I think we will, well, we can't see a Werewolf by Night if we don't draw it, and we don't really have any other great plays here. We were hoping to either get the copy a card or the draw cards on Nico at this point, and that could have been played onto the Chimichanga in the case of the draw 2, or next turn's Beta Ray Bill in the case of the copy a card mode. We're thinking about Hitmonkey into the Xandar location, potentially alongside Chimichanga, so that way you can Toxin and pick them back up, I think is the idea here for Vince. And next turn, they're just going to wind up playing Beta Ray Bill over into the Taco Truck. So none of these plays are super impressive, really. Yeah, we could just see the Demon come down just to put a few more points on Toxin. I mean, if you're going to play the Hitmonkey, you're going to play the Chimichanga here, I believe. So that could just be the play, and then the plan is to like pick it up at some point down the line. But for right now, we are just going to drop that into the Taco Truck, not alongside the Hood, but we're just putting 7 points down on the board. That is fairly reasonable. Electro comes down from Snapbot. I think I like Snapbot's position here more, though. We can also see Vince's hand and see that they do not have, and I played both of these decks a little bit on the ladder. I find this Bounce Beta Ray Bill deck to be a little bit clunky in terms of what it wants to do in a lot of games, because you have all of these ways to go over the top. I think it can really reward good snap etiquette, but could certainly be a deck that punishes bad players. We do see a snap come out from Snapbot here, and I think this could be a retreat from Vince. Looks like Vince is just willing to play out games for 2 cubes, though. But when you're not doing anything like super fantastic, it gets really tough to stay in positions like this. Looks like we could see a bounce setup here with Rocket Raccoon, Nico Minoru, and Toxin coming down into Xandar. This is going to be a War Machine, actually, from Snapbot. I was thinking a Blink, not going to be that good, but we will see what else Snapbot is able to come up with. They will have 6 energy next turn, so that could be just like an Infinite into the Miniaturized Lab. There's no tech in either of these decks, so nothing that Snapbot has to worry about if they just want to slam down an Infinite early. What else could they go for? Honestly, not super sure. We see the Hood as a potential option here for Vince. It looks like it's what they're eyeing up. But then on the final turn of the game, I mean, they're just going to drop some demons and rocket raccoons and try to just put out as many points as possible. Maybe draw a Stormbringer, which you could play into Mini Lab and move it over. I was thinking Grandmaster was getting a little bit awkward here because Toxin was over in Xandar. All right, this is just a Legion plus Ebony Maw over in Mini Lab. Not quite an Infinite, few points short of an Infinite, but still 14, nothing to sneeze at. If this Stormbringer gets drawn on the final turn, then I think Vince has a pretty good play. It's a 1 in 4. Are they going to get it? Wow. Wow. So Stormbringer Grandmaster really pulls them ahead in Mini Lab. They do need to find a way to win another location, though. So that is going to be Nico Minoru plus the Demon plus the Demon over in Mini Lab, but you can't play all of those cards because you need to play Stormbringer and then you need to Grandmaster that Stormbringer. Honestly, I don't know if you need to Grandmaster the Stormbringer. You might need to Grandmaster Nico Minoru here so that way it doubles and doubles up to 8. That could be the play. Looks like we are going to see the Stormbreaker come down. 9 points into Mini Lab will put Vince up to 13. That is a perfect number to play for there. So seems pretty reasonable. Probably don't need more points over in the Mini Lab, but we are going to see the Nico get dropped there. Yeah, Nico, I mean, it's the same amount of points as Rocket Raccoon. Doesn't really matter. They're going to put more points over in the Mini Lab? Oh, they certainly do not need to. I mean, wait, no, maybe they do, because an Infinite puts Snapbot up to 24 at that location. And Beta Ray Bill doubled and doubled will put it up to 24 by itself, plus the Toxin will put it up to 32. So I think that the first location is just totally sorted. We're going to see a Toxin for 10 and then a Demon for 16. And we already know a Demon Center will basically mean that Vince is able to just barely play for every location here. And that is the downside of this War Machine deck. I mean, sure, just an Infinite on the final turn, that's never going to win you a game if your opponent is able to battle for all 3 locations like Vince is able to do here. So Vince is going to grab an 8-cuber and take Snapbot down to just 1 cube there. So now Snapbot is going to have to win the next 4 games or Vince is going to be able to lock it up here. Let's see, 24 power Beta Ray build. That is the main combo of the deck, I would say, just doubling up on that Stormbringer. I'm glad we got to see it. I think we basically got to see both of these decks do their thing, though. Snapbot's deck left a little bit to be desired. They didn't do anything cool really with Cersei or Blink and didn't have the full Storm lockout combo, which is very, very good against Vince. Their only way to counterplay that combo is Nico Minoru changing the flooded location. Lemuria going to put a little bit of a pause on things here. We could see Nico Minoru come down, but yeah, we're going to hang on to it. Makes sense to me. And now we have the Vault, which means Storm is not even needed. All we need is a Legion and a War Machine. I have to feel like Snapbot is going to have these cards line up one time, but Beta Ray Bill into the Vault is one of your better play lines. Domino is joined by Electro into Lemuria as the Heralds of Galactus there for 8 points. And Vince can contest that. They can Beta Ray Bill move in the Werewolf for 11 points. I don't know if they really want to do that. We could even just see a Legion into the Vault this turn. Oh, it's a blink. Oh, okay. Well, Legion would have been nasty there, but that is going to be a blink, and we will see Blink grab a Cersei, which turns that Domino into an Iron Patriot. They actually lost points there this turn. That's a little bit awkward, but that Patriot, sorry, just Patriot, not Iron Patriot, that Patriot is still the Herald of Galactus, though it is also losing that center location. So Galactus not going to grow this turn. The monster has +2 power on it from Patriot. So Snapbot is winning in Monster Island. Yeah, Rocket Raccoon into the Vault makes a lot of sense this turn, and then just pick it up with Toxin. Where do you go from there? Well, you could play Nico Minoru to finish off, which would give you an opportunity. Oh, this is going to pick up your Werewolf by Night as well. And it is Monster Island time. No vaults, but a trio of 12 power monsters here for Snapbot. Unfortunately, Vince is going to pick up not only their Werewolf by Night, but also a monster, meaning they are really losing in that third location. If we find, oh, we don't even get to draw for turn. Yep. The Merlin spell is going to replace the potential draw, so no Stormbringer here for Vince. This one's just a loss. Once in future, one of your monsters, and get the heck out of there. You can drop a Sasquatch, win one location. You can drop Werewolf, win the center location. Sure, this beats exactly Infinite in the location where your opponent is already crushing you, so it's definitely not playing for this turn. I mean, it could happen, but I think this one is going to go to Snapbot. Let's see what they come up with here. Yeah, this is a pair of plays, which we don't get to see often from this deck, but Electro plus War Machine is going to be able to do it. That Electro was blinked back into the deck to be able to get played again on the final turn. That's why it's very specific scenarios where they actually get to play 2 cards on the final turn, but they are going to almost score a cosmic victory with that one. A tie and 2 wins to slightly even up the cube lead, but still going to need to win the next 3 games here. King Eitri coming out. Nidavellir, also a pretty reasonable location for Vince, because Snapbot is not able to put out multiple cards most turns. We also have Merlin plus the Hood. I think we'll see those come down in quick order here. Merlin's going to join King Eitri, and now what do we have? We've got a Domino that is not the Herald, and we've got a Beta Ray Bill that I think, well, it's not turn 4 yet. So this turn we might just see the Hood plus Rocket Raccoon. Are these cards going to come down into Nidavellir though? Doesn't seem the best. We could Omniversal Presence the Bifrost, and wow, they do actually catch out this Electro, which is the Herald and is going to be winning in Nidavellir for at least a turn. The Hood is not that much power, so Rocket Raccoon not going to be able to overcome that. They're down by 6. But this is still possible to overcome if they really want to battle for it. All of these things are going to move, but the Kiln is going to get locked up soon. So that's actually looking pretty good for Vince all of a sudden. Omniversal Presence could come down. We also have Nico on the copy a card mode. That could copy a Hit Monkey. Sure, it's only going to be a 5 power Hit Monkey, but it's something. Next turn, we can play Beta Ray Bill and then immediately grab the Stormbringer with King Eitri. So I do believe that that is what Vince is setting up here. Jubilee could hit Infinite. That would be a tricky one. Ebony Maul, not quite going to cut it. It also could have been Legion, which would have been pretty spicy. Not sure what's in Snapbot's hand, but this Hit Monkey is going to be able to take over the Kiln, at least temporarily here. And now, like I said, I do believe we're going to see Beta Ray Bill plus Polymorph on the Hood, potentially. And then we get to finish off with a Stormbreaker and a Sasquatch. Seems pretty good. Stormbreaker, Sasquatch, Demon on the final turn. Plus, will Hit Monkey also be able to get played? No, you'll have to make a choice between Sasquatch and Hit Monkey, unfortunately. Omniversal Presence into the Bifrost to pump up Merlin. Huh. Interesting. I guess potentially trying to play around a Blink on this Jubilee. Is that what we see? No, we see a Legion to open up the Kiln. That is not what Snapbot's deck is supposed to be doing here. They're supposed to be locking Vince out of the game. That middle location is going to turn into Hellfire Club, pump up Merlin, and Stormbreaker is drawn by King Eitri. But if Snapbot is only playing for one location on the final turn, I think Vince should be able to squeeze out a win in this center location. They'll need to play 3 cards alongside Hit Monkey to make it 11, and then, yeah, then it wins. So Hit Monkey, Demon, and a Stormbringer plus an Omniversal Presence, and they can battle for all 3 locations. Let's see if they find that, or if they just decide to, I mean, at the very least, they're going to polymorph the Hood, right? But I think that they'll figure out that they can win this center location with the Hit Monkey. And if they do that, I think writing is on the wall here. Nope. Okay, they're going to go for Hitmonkey into Bifrost. So this is definitely beatable. This is just Snapbot has to play. Oh, they don't have a War Machine. Oh, that's what I was missing. Ebony Maw has locked them out of that kiln turned Bifrost location. Regardless, Legion not going to be able to unlock it. They still will not be able to play to that third location. So they are just going to drop a Galactus into the center and the match is over. There we go. Oh, Cersei could be spicy. Cersei could be spicy. Nightmare not quite going to do it, I don't think. Maybe it could cheat out a Makari or something. We get some additional points there from Cole and Eliath, but that is it. Vince Fox Mulder FBI is the winner with Beta Ray Bounce. Honestly, I think we got to see a pretty good showing from both of these decks here, so I'm not going to talk too much longer. I'm just going to pad a little bit as sort of a spoiler shield here, and I think that both of these decks are reasonable choices for next weekend's Golden Gauntlet tournament. We've already seen Bounce win a Golden Gauntlet, and this is just a slightly different version of Bounce, a little bit more swingy, to be sure, than the consistency that Bounce typically is trying to offer. But with that swinginess, you do have some interesting high roll potential, and Merlin is a fantastic card that can get you out of some sticky situations. Or you could go for a very consistent deck, I would say, in this War Machine deck. It didn't really seem that consistent in these games, I will say, but it is consistent in that you are trying to do one thing every single game. I will say, I think Merlin is one of the best cards currently in Marvel Snap. It just gives you a lot of flexibility, and when I am going into the Golden Gauntlet, Merlin is a card that I want in my deck because it gives me potential answers to whatever might randomly happen over the course of a 10-round tournament that the Golden Gauntlet is. So that makes me want to play Merlin, which does make it a little bit awkward to try to be storming people out because they will have that omniversal presence that can change the flooded location and really mess with the deck's game plan. So I'm not exactly sure if War Machine is where you want to be, but we did get to see it was able to make it to the finals for this tournament. So certainly not a terrible choice. We'll see what comes out on top next weekend. We've got a bunch of cards coming out tomorrow with the Visions of the Future season. So we'll see what all of that stuff brings. For today, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace. To enter into my giveaway, there are 3 things that you need to do. The first is subscribe to this YouTube channel. The second is leave a comment on any of my videos. This season, every comment will give you an additional entry into the giveaway. Limit 1 per video, but you can comment on all of the videos that I upload throughout this season. And the third thing that you have to do is join my Discord. And the reason that I need you to do that is so that way I can contact you if you win, because YouTube comments, you don't always get the notifications for things like that. So join my Discord, leave a comment on all of my videos, and subscribe for more Sweet Marvel Snap.